Hello, welcome back. It's so good to see you. So, today we are going to try and catch a thief. Last time, the first video, we did one of these and we were able to solve it immediately. Last time I recorded one of these, I was unable to solve both of the mysteries. So it made me feel real dumb. I folded the page over so that I would know which one we were on. And this is just a little book that I got at Walmart where they're just little 1-minute mysteries that we try to solve and hopefully not feel like complete idiots. But we'll see how that goes today. And we're still in the beginner section. How are we ever going to be able to do the sleuth section? I don't know. But this kind of reminds me of like Paddington, right? Because of the yellow, it looks like a yellow raincoat and a little yellow hat. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. Maybe it's not Paddington. Whatever. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the mystery and see if we can solve it. Let me know if you solve it or if I'm just a complete idiot like I think I am. Okay, it is kind of dark and cloudy outside, so I had to turn the light on in here. I haven't heard any thunder or anything like that, but who knows? So there might be some sounds in the background. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the mystery. Sam Ralston pointed to the wall where an hour earlier a painting had hung. I didn't know the value of that landscape until tonight. One of my guests is an art dealer. He said I should have it insured. Anyone overhear your conversation? Asked Detective Nancy Cruz. Sure. It was a bit before the lights went out. I thought it was a storm, but then I discovered it was only a circuit breaker, so I figured the caterers caused it. When I got the lights back on, the painting was gone. Anyone leave the house at that time? Unlikely, it was pouring, Sam said. Nancy asked, has Lance Hauser, the Deputy Hauser? Sam sneered. If his father-in-law hadn't pulled strings to get him on the force. Uh-oh. Nancy raised her hand to silence Sam, although she'd also objected to Hauser's hiring and disliked his attitude. Hauser's questioning the guests, Sam said sourly. Nancy followed Sam to his living room, which held a group of unhappy partygoers. You made it, Lance said sarcastically, when the detective motioned to him to join her in the foyer. He strutted from the room. Nice digs, he said. I'm going to take a look around. Nancy was about to object when an older woman with red hair rushed up. I'm Norma Wood. I must go home to let out my dog. I was already questioned. Exactly when did you arrive? Nancy asked. About 7, before the rain. She touched her perfect hair. Deputy Hauser, will you search your car? Oh, Deputy Hauser will search your car. Nancy turned to Lance. Do you have a rain slicker? She asked. In the patrol car, Lance said. My coat's in the closet, Norma said. Guests started using the coat rack after the closets filled up. Next came a man and a petite This is my wife, Cecile. When did you arrive? We were the last. We were the last around 8. Thompson pulled a pair of sodden raincoats from the coat stand. We lived nearby and walked over. Deputy Hauser, please, my poor dog, Norma Wood pleaded. Lance followed her into the rain and returned wearing a rain slicker. Nothing in her car, he said. Brandon Hazley, a short man with gray hair, was next. Shame. It was shaping up to be a great party. When did you get here? Met Norma on the path. We were the first to arrive. Did you notice the painting at all? Nancy asked. No, Halsey said, plucking his soggy coat from the rack. I'm not into art. He was buttoning his coat when Nancy told him his car would have to be searched. My car? Halsey said. Lance interrupted. You can go, Mr. Halsey. Stunned, Nancy turned to Lance when Mr. Halsey exited. Deputy Hauser, she began. Lance held up a hand. Thompson's our perp, he said. He teaches art history. He'd know the value of the painting, whether he'd heard the dealer or not. Nancy glared at him, shaking her head. You're way off base. Why or who does Nancy suspect? I would say that... Do you know who she would suspect? I feel like I know. I think that she suspects Brandon Halsey. Was I saying Hazley? I don't know. Halsey. Brandon Halsey, the short man with the gray hair, because he said that he arrived with Norma. But Norma arrived before the party and before, or like at the very beginning. She was one of the first people at the very beginning of the party before it started raining. And if Brandon got there with Norma, or at the same time, his coat wouldn't be wet. But when he put on his coat, it was soggy. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like that's right. Hold on. Sorry, I had to cough. Okay, so let's turn the page and read it. Okay, answer for page 16 and 17. Since Halsey arrived at the same time as Norma Wood, his dry coat should have been in the closet near hers, but his raincoat was hanging soggily on the coat rack because he'd slipped it on for a dash through the rain to stash the painting in his car while the lights were out. Yup, I knew it. Okay, so maybe I'm not a total idiot. I think we should do one more. Just one more. Okay. We'll see what this one... Ooh, look at that. Doesn't that look good? It's like, how are you gonna show me something delicious like this and not give me the recipe? Maybe the recipe's in here. I don't know. But that looks good, right? Yeah. Okay. This one is titled Terrible Timing. Terrible timing, terrible timing. Okay. Would you like a sweet roll, Sheriff? Sheriff Bo Barnes gazed longingly at the fresh from the oven sticky roll on the plate Sally Mae was holding out. He shook his head in disappointment. No, thank you, ma'am, he said. thinking of the diet his doctor had put him on. I'll just have a cup of coffee, no sugar. Still brewing, Sally Mae turned to glare at the three people lined up against the counter. Barnes tried to ignore the warm scent of cinnamon mingled with the aroma of brewing coffee and got to work. It's starting to rain. So, you reported a burglary this morning? Barnes asked, glancing around the room. There was no sign of a disturbance in Sally Mae's coffee cup restaurant, but that did not mean that something nefarious hadn't occurred. I had $200 in my office last night. She pointed to the open door of a room in the back. This morning it's gone, vanished. So the money could have been stolen last night. No, it couldn't have, she said. The outside door was locked and the windows were all shut tight. There was no sign of a break-in. A customer knocked on the locked front door and held up his watch. It's 7:10, he called through the door. We're having a little bit of a problem, Sally Mae called back. But please, we'll be with you as soon as we can. Barnes frowned. So, who arrived here first this morning? Sally Mae pointed at the three people standing by the counter. It wasn't me, Sheriff, I swear. I swear it. An older woman in a waitress uniform spoke up, holding her hands up in mock surrender. That's Stella Ames, Sally Mae said. She's always in early to set up the tables and to start up the coffee. I was running late this morning, Stella said, so I called and left a message on the answering machine asking Glenda to get the coffee started. The pudgy man beside her, wearing white pants and a shirt, said, I got held up and called in too. I left a message for Stella to start my ovens. That's Glenn, my baker, Sally Mae said. He preps the dough at night and bakes everything in the morning. The coffee, the pastries, it all comes together like clockwork, except when people are late, that is. Barnes pointed at the third employee, a young woman in a black uniform with dyed black hair and bright red lipstick. Daphne, Sally Mae said. She's new. She works the register and handles the counter customers. Don't look at me, Daphne said, rolling her eyes. I don't start until 7, and I didn't come in early like the others. And I don't come in early like the others. Barnes scratched his head, the scent of the rolls making him antsy. So you think it's one of these three, Sally Mae? They all have keys. You checked the answering machine. They both called in, but I don't pay them to cover for each other. They're both supposed to be here. Who called first? Stella. By now more customers were outside. What should I do, Sheriff? Sally Mae asked. Barnes turned to Daphne. Do you have a cell phone? Of course I do, she sneered. Who doesn't? Barnes nodded. Then said to Sally Mae, the coffee seems to be done now, so you can let the customers in. I'm thinking you might want to hire yourself a new, maybe a new, a new baker? I'm gonna say a new baker because, I don't know, this is hard. This one's hard. Because, let's see, he said that he had called in and left a message for Stella to start my ovens. He had prepared the cinnamon rolls. I don't know. let me start over here. Would you like a sweet roll? Let's see. It's glazed longingly. No, thank you. He has a diet. But he would have a cup of coffee. The coffee was still brewing. I don't know. This one's hard. But he could smell the cinnamon. How are the cinnamon rolls done before the coffee? Coffee only takes a few minutes. I don't know. Who does she have to hire? Does she have to hire a new... Not a new cashier. I don't think she did anything. She showed up at 7, right? I'm gonna say the baker. I don't know. Let's flip it over and find out. Oh, it looks like it's a long description. Okay. Stella was late, so she called in. When Glenn arrived to start the oven, he noticed Stella still hadn't shown, so he listened to the message and realized his opportunity. He took the money and left the restaurant before anyone knew he'd been there to give himself an alibi. He used his cell phone to call in a message saying he'd be late, but the sheriff noticed that despite his being late, the pastries were done on time, which meant he'd been there, and from force of habit, turned on the ovens. The coffee wasn't ready because Stella actually was late. Sally Mae had to hire a new baker. Oh my gosh, I was right. Were you right? Were you right that it was the baker? And were you right that it was that guy who, Brendan Halsey? I can't believe I got these right. Last time I didn't get them right at all. I felt so dumb. So, it looks like next time, I think I'll probably do this again in a couple months or something. But it's going to be something about hands? I don't know. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.